Hello and welcome to Chess with Simon. I'm Simon. We are reviewing the games of the OCA Cowley Blitz. It is fascinating and enjoyable, at least I'm enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying it. And it's also just very interesting. So we're going to look at the games of NotMaximeLagrave. He has got lots of great results against a bunch of strong players and also a very weak player, someone called Simon Terrington. Seems like he won quite quickly here. That's pretty depressing. Okay, so let's have a look at this game and what we can learn from it. So I played d4, d4, d5, c4, e6, standard Queen's Gambit decline stuff. I play knight f3, so not committing the bishop to f4 or g5. And actually, you can also play e3 here. Now, it's probably a bit less ambitious, but people do play it, and it's just something a bit different, and certainly white's not worse. Should we see what the engine says about it? Look, I'm curious now. So it'd have to be on the next move, wouldn't it? So e3, what does the engine say about that? Dead equal. All right, it's played. Anyway, but it's only plus 0.2 for my move, which was, and dead equal for that too. Look, there you go, for bishop g5. Okay, so this is standard Queen's Gambit declined. Castles, and this is quite an interesting reflection actually. I think modern engines have changed the way we think about chess because a lot of positions look pretty equal, and I think what that says is we need to spend more time learning about the end game, but also it says that there's more opportunity to explore variety in chess because actually there's quite a lot of lines which are not wrong, and that actually reveals the diversity and the interest of chess. So bishop g5, you can play lines that used to look wacky, but actually they hold. One example of that, I was watching an elite game the other day, actually, which went e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes, knight takes, so standard Sicilian. Then knight f6, knight c3, so it looks like it's going to be a Najdorf. And then black played e5, so hitting the knight on d4 without the Najdorf a6. And white's got bishop b5 check, but actually on an engine you can make that work. It's absolutely extraordinary. And the guy did make it work. I can't remember which players it was now. But anyway, that's just one example. But in a sense, it's slightly rewriting the our understanding of chess. Or it's often rewriting our understanding of chess. Anyway, this is all not rewriting our understanding of chess. This is standard stuff. e3. NotMaximeLagrave plays b6, which is slightly different. Often, more frequently, black plays h6, bishop h4, and then b6. But he's just gone straight for b6, basically just saying I'm going to develop that queen's bishop, which is blocked in by e6. The reasoning here is you say, right, now the bishop's committed to the fianchetto, you're going to swap, you're going to take on d5, and then allow black to take back. Of course, black can then cross you up. Bishop d3 I play, which is the book move, and actually play bishop e6. e6 is a better square for the bishop. It's very secure there. Again, sometimes it goes down in the Najdorf as well. It's very secure there. It's defending the d pawn, and also if that d pawn moves, the bishop will be attacking the queen's side. But again, part of white's idea of taking on d5 was to impose these hanging pawns on black. I castle, and actually castling's natural here, but looking at the database, there are better moves. So knight e5 might be a better move. We'll revisit this, but castling is natural here. Black plays c5. Now this is the first mistake, which is I just assumed that we're going to impose hanging pawns on black, or indeed, if black takes with a bishop, you give black an IQP. So I took. But look, no one's ever done it before on the database, and you see why. Black takes back. The right move here was knight e5. So knight e5 is a good move here. Basically, there's no knight c6 for black, obviously. But also knight bd7 is bad because this knight move is a fork. Causes a world of pain. And then you got knight b5, which threatens another fork. And the engine just thinks white's winning here, and you can see why. So after knight e5 from white, black's got to make moves like this, knight fd7, which releases some tension, but doesn't feel enormously natural. You see the same thing, don't you, in the Benoni sometimes, so it's not enormously natural. So I took here, black takes back. But I then followed that slight mistake with another slight mistake, which is e4. So I just assumed you've got to break up these hanging pawns and create spaces in between them. And I think in some lines you do that, but not quite this early or not quite in this way. Black just plays the engine move d4. And again, black's not thinking all here. Black's got more than 3 minutes, so he's playing faster than the increment. I guess just playing out of book here, just knows what to do. But played this move immediately, which when you look at it, you understand. White has this pretty resource here, taking on f6, and black can't take on c3 because then the bishop takes back on c3. You get the same thing in the Queen's Gambit declines sugaring, don't you? When black takes on f3, and if white goes ahead and takes on c6, the black bishop can then come back and take on c6, so it doesn't get taken off. So anyway, I didn't do that. I ran with a knight, and actually ran the wrong way as well. The engine wants to run to a4 and stick the knight on the rim, which I think humans would feel queasy about. But I guess if you're on a4, then white can take on f6, and the c-pawn might hang. If you take with the bishop, you might have to take with the pawn. So that's quite pretty. I played here. Now the engine wants to play c4. Certainly thinks black is a little bit better after c4. You can see why that's the case. But I think black had a long think here. Yeah, he had a long think for over a minute, which is a long time on a 3-minute game. And probably thought quite hard about c4, I would imagine. Please let me know in the comments. People feel free to. But in the end, developed the knight. And I completely understand why. Because what you don't want is to get that rook caught on the diagonal with the knight in the corner. So even after c4, you certainly have to look at playing pawn e5, making space. Although, let's look at it. It's actually quite interesting. So pawn c4, I suppose black's taking first and maybe wins a piece here. e5, yeah, takes. So this doesn't work because takes. And then, oh, you can't do that. You can't do it that way. You've got to take this way. Oh, chess is such a complicated game. You take this way, and now white has 2 pieces hanging. So actually, taking this way isn't a problem, because now white can take here. Golly gosh, you really have to take your vitamins for this stuff, don't you? Black takes here. Queens. Come on, let's look at all of it. Takes with check. Takes here. Then black picks up here. Then white picks up here. And it's equal. I mean, didn't see all of that during the game. Beautiful though, isn't it? So what has to happen is taking this way. So on this basis, so the point is white did not have the option of e5 and then possibly getting the bishop on the long diagonal, maybe if the knight moved. But I reckon that's what black was calculating. But instead he just played knight c6. I played b3, fearing c4. Black attacks this knight and threatens to disrupt the pawns in front of the king. And this is far-sighted as well. I did this, which is wrong. There's other moves like knight e1, knight d2. They don't feel very natural. They feel a bit grovelly. But actually, they would have stopped immediate disaster. This really is asking for it, because you've got knight e5, now threatening to disrupt the pawns. It's natural to interpose the bishop to break the pin and to stop the pawns getting disrupted. It's natural and it's wrong, because d3 wins a piece. And that's pretty early, isn't it, to be losing a piece, getting it trapped on your second rank. I tried to create some confusion by taking on e5, and I very nearly succeed as well. Black takes on e2, now forking my queen and rook with a pawn, which needs to be addressed. I didn't want to take on e2 with a knight, because then black takes on d1 and then picks up the knight on e2 for nothing. That's a whole piece, so I tried to do something a bit more confusing. Black takes on f1. This so a rook's 5 pawns and the queen is 9 pawns. It's got to give up a pawn, so it's a 13 pawn advantage in one move. You can gain more material with one move, but not much. I take with the king, and actually black takes with the rook, and this isn't precise, or this isn't actually right, because now the bishop on e7 is loose. So if white had have thought, and I'm on 1 minute 38, there's no excuse for rushing this. If I'd have thought, I'd have taken on g4, black can't take back on g4 because then you pick up the e7 bishop. Instead, I tried a related idea. I tried to liquidate the defense of the g4 bishop by taking here. Then when black takes back, I'm ready to take on g4, and then I just go, oh no, my knight's pinned against my rook. That's really, really bad. So I played f4 to prove I haven't lost the knight as well, and then I looked and thought, there's a whole rook down here. A rook for a pawn, but black also has the 2 bishops, so you could say, well, you know, that's worth half a pawn. And just look, the queens are off. This is just gone. No, there's no big time advantage. I've got a slight time advantage that's not worth anything. So I decided it was a good moment to resign and congratulate my opponent on a great game. So I've actually learnt a lot from this. And the main thing I've learnt, actually, I mean, okay, so e4 was a bad move. But for me, the thing to remember is the first mistake was taking. And actually, knight e5 was the right move. And I think probably going back and studying how this is different from the line with h6 and bishop h4 is also a good idea. Because, of course, there are subtle differences. And often what happens is you fall back, particularly in blitz games, you fall back on concepts which work in one line. But it wasn't quite the same here. So well done to my opponent. It's knight e5 next time, and I'll see what you play then. Knight fd7 maybe. And the search goes on. The search for perfection goes on. But on this particular game, I was quite a long way from it. It's a dark and stormy night on Plum Street tonight. It's raining. The dog hasn't been out, but tomorrow's going to be sunny. So I hope you all have a lovely weekend, and see you all soon.